We haven't done a whole lot to develop community.
So as you travel around the state and you talk about aerospace, and airports can tend to have, let's just say, heated discussion in the community about what to do with it.
You're not unique.
Tell us a little bit about our current situation where you may see the slides up here. We're looking at what type of board they have, the qualifications, and bonds. Do we have an authority? Do we have a department? Maybe you've seen this in other places. Maybe you can kind of just share some thoughts on what you've seen.
I've been to communities where there's a great relationship and they are doing a lot with their airport. I've been to communities where there's a very dysfunctional relationship. I won't name names. Not here. Where they have an airport and they're not getting anywhere with it. I'd say roughly about a third of the airports in the state make money, a third are they're on the borderline, and about a third don't make money. Those top third, the things that I see when I go in and talk to the community is that the airport authority, or whoever runs the airport, sometimes directly by the county, but most time authorities, the airport authority, the county government, and whatever municipal governments they are in sync with each other. They have a unified strategic plan on how they want to use the airport as an economic development tool, and they work very well together. Airport boards that I've talked to that seem to work very well are diverse. They have a mix of folks. They're not all general aviation pilots. They tend to have a mix of folks from the aviation industry, because the aviation industry is not uniform. There's pilots and engineers and manufacturers and lots of folks. So the ones that in my estimation, work very well have a diverse mix of aviation folks on the board, but also some non-aviation folks on the board, because the airport is part of the community. It is a community asset, not an aerospace community asset. So you have to have the aerospace community, the aviation community represented, but also folks from the community. So it's very important to have that diverse mix of folks on the board with some aviation experience, aviation and aerospace experience, and bring that to the table. And then other folks who have business and other experiences they can bring as well. Because the airport has to live in the community. They can't be isolated. The ones that are isolated, the board is all local pilots, they don't do as well as the ones that have that diverse mix and do integrate well.
And so with airports, what would be an airport that is about the size of, say, Haldings Airport, as far as runway length, amount of property, that we could use as a good reference point to say this is what potentially could come into the future based off of having a mixed-use facility where you have general aviation, MRO.
I would say it's not so much runway length. We tend to, people call me up all the time, and other economic developers say, well, what's the runway length from here? What's the runway? Well, as long as the runway is long enough for whatever airplane you want to land there, the rest of it doesn't really matter. It really matters what's around the airport. As I tell folks, you can only make so much money off of selling jet fuel or avgas to people who just happen to be passing through. You have to make your airport a destination. People have to have a reason to come to your airport. That can be you have corollary businesses that locate in the area and they use your airport as a transportation hub. It can be that you have aerospace, aviation businesses on the airport, like maintenance, repair, and overhaul, where people are bringing aircraft for maintenance or modification. So you have to figure out, again, it's not so much length, it's how do you make it a destination? And that has more to do with not that strip of concrete out there, but the community and what you have to offer, and what other businesses and what other things can you bring to the table. So I'm not trying to duck your question, but there's only, I think Blake probably knows better than me, but I was looking at the other day, I think there's only 10, you're in the top 10 runways in the state. I think that's right. Nod your head. Is that right? Yeah, in terms of length. So, you're in the top 10 in the state already of the 104 in terms of length and your taxiways and all those things. But again, how do you differentiate yourself? Because you are in a competition. There are 103, let's take Hartsville, 102 other airports that when prospects come to the state of Georgia and they're looking for, they say, well, we want property on an airport. There are 102 airports that raise their hands. And we at the state, we don't pick and choose. We gather the information up and we put it in front of the prospect and they look at it and say, well, I'd like to visit them, and them. So it's how you differentiate your destination. And a lot of times it's not the length of the runway. It's a lot of other factors, other businesses. Because businesses aren't self-contained. They locate your airport, they want to know there's other businesses nearby that can support them, subcontractors, things like that, that they can use for their business. So again, it's making that airport a good destination for business to help draw out there. Not so much, once you got so much concrete, you're done, you're there.
Real quick, our charter is to review the code of ordinances for our airport authority and make recommendations. You mentioned that Macon and Ben Evans have lost their federal funding, lose the commercial operation. What can we do, or should we look at in our review of our code of ordinances to make sure that doesn't happen here? What happened at those two airfields?
Well,
What went wrong?
what we've had generally in the air transportation business over the last 20 years is we've had, not just in Georgia, but all over the United States, we've seen small to mid-sized communities lose their air service, especially when they're within a 2 to 3 hour driving distance from a major hub. When you've combined the issues of security and the amount of time it takes to get into the airport, go through security and do those things, people, and the security is no different in small airports, you still got to go through and do those things. What we've seen at the Macons and Columbuses, and this is true in other states, people will simply drive from Macon to Hartsfield because it has much more service, much more frequency, and that's the one thing that drives airlines is frequency. You have that frequency of service, no matter where it is what customers like. So you've seen small communities all over the United States lose their service because people will simply drive to the big hub airport and go there. And because of that small airlines, it had nothing to do really with federal funding. It's just the airlines made a financial decision, so you just don't have the traffic.
Well, that's why